My brother, Mad Dog Mike, died 5 years ago on this very day. So here's what I got to say. I remember going to the Mid-Hudson Civic Center with you, Mike. We used to watch Moondog Spot and his partner Spike. You taught me how to lift and how to fight and how to stand up for what's right. The day that you died, you bet your ass I cried. But now it's full steam ahead. I'll rest when I'm dead. Trample the weak, hurdle the dead. There's no room to be average. There's no such thing as an average savage. I'd rather be dead than average. This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. I'm answering questions today for the Power Project in honor of my brother, Mad Dog Mike. I will say this before I answer the Power Project question of the day. For those of you that have a loved one out there who struggles with drugs and alcohol and those types of things, do me a favor, Power Project Army. Reach out to those people. My brother Mike struggled with those types of things his entire adult life. And these types of things are important to talk about. It's not easy to come out here and talk about it. It's not easy to talk about someone that's not fucking here anymore. It's hard, but it's important. People that die from drugs and alcohol, it's a giant vicious cycle. And you can save people. You can't save everybody. You don't want to enable people. But at the same time, you guys know what I'm talking about. You're thinking about someone right now. Give that person a phone call. Check in with that person. Let them know that you see through their bullshit and that you know that they're continuing to do the things they're not supposed to do. Maybe you can make a difference. Maybe you can still have your brother around. Maybe you can still have your dad or your sister or your uncle or your cousin around. But I don't. My brother's gone. And, he battled himself, basically, each and every day. And I know that many of you out there can relate. Maybe I'm talking directly to you, or maybe I'm talking indirectly to you. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. Try to reach out. Just tell somebody. Just tell them. Just say, hey, man, I know you still struggle. I know you have problems, and maybe you can't help them out financially. Maybe you can only help them so much. But just tell them. Say, I'm here. You know, I'm available. I can assist you whatever way you want. And you want to know why that's important? A lot of people tend to look down on people that get addicted to drugs. They tend to look down on the homeless, and it's a wrong vantage point a lot of times. And the reason is because I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it. I've seen it happen to my good friend's brother, my boy, my adopted brother, Jesse Burdick. And, I grew up in a good family. So did Jesse Burdick. And it doesn't, drugs and alcohol, they don't care if you're white. They don't care if you're black. They don't care if you're any other color in between. They don't care if you're short or you're fat or whatever. Drug addiction sees no colors, and it grabs a lot of people by the throat, rich or poor or otherwise. I had loving parents that couldn't have supported me anymore if they tried, I don't think. I think it's impossible to kind of do some of the things. Hopefully one day I can live up to some of the things they were able to do for me, but I don't see it happening, to be honest with you. But, I grew up in the same household as Mike. Chris grew up in the same household. Obviously, each one of us, we have our own strengths and weaknesses and so on and so forth. But it doesn't have to do with that. We weren't abused or anything weird like that. We had a pretty normal, or what seemed to be, normal family. You guys saw Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and a lot of you told me you can relate to that. So, anyway, every time this comes up, every year, I'm not trying to make this day a big day to be sad or any shit like that. That ain't my style. But reach out. Do it for yourself. Do it for the people around you. Anyway, we got a question to get to here at the Power Project today. It's about bench pressing. That's all it seems like we ever talk about anymore. No one really cares what you squat or what you bench or what you deadlift. They don't care what you squat or what you deadlift. They want to know how much you bench, right? Anyway, we got a question today. This guy is 6'3". He weighs 210 pounds. His best bench press is 248. He's squatting fairly okay, considering he seems to be fairly new. He's deadlifting okay, but he's just like wondering, dude, why is my bench in the gutter? Well, you know, there's going to be some advantages and disadvantages to what you got. But what you got is all you got, and it's all you're ever going to know, right? So the way that you're built can sometimes play into some of this stuff. At 6'3" and 210 pounds, you're at somewhat of a disadvantage. That does not mean that you can't improve. Now, your question had to do with technique. Your question was more of a form question, and I'll get into that in a second. You were talking about, or I'll get into it right now. You were talking about your elbows coming out as you go to press, and you were talking about the weights flying up over your eyes. And you thought that was a problem. Well, I'm here to tell you that's actually the right way to bench press a lot of times. Not for everybody. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. So when I say one thing, people get all up in arms sometimes. They get all sad. There's no reason to get all crazy about it. There's a lot of different ways to work out. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to increase your vertical. There's more than one way to increase your 100-meter dash. There's more than one way to increase the way you lift, and so on and so forth down the road. Each person is a little different. Let's talk about your case. So you're saying that you drift over the eyes a little bit. That's a natural path for somebody who has a long stroke. I have an extremely long stroke. Catch my drift? I have a long stroke. I don't really even have the longest of arms, but I don't arch very good, and I'm not fat. Sounds to me at 6'3", 210, you're not fat either. You don't have a belly to bench press off of. You don't have an overly big chest, or you don't have huge arms to kind of take advantage of some leverages. So first thing I would advise you to do, if you really want your bench press to increase, I would just advise you to start to eat more and start to try to gain some weight and get your body weight up to 220, 235, 240, and even weighing 255 or 260 at 6'3" would be fine, and we'd still be healthy. You don't want to gain a lot of fat, so do it over a period of time. You know how to do that. You're going to have to look at some of my other stuff talking about diet and stuff, but a typical bodybuilding diet would be a good route. 6 meals a day, similar amount of carbohydrates in grams per pound of your body weight, maybe slightly more. Same amount of protein, and then your fat would be about 35-40% of that, something like that. 30% of that sounds good to me. Sound good? Okay, here we go. So a lot of people are, a lot of people get all crazy about if their elbows flare in the bench press, but I actually think that you want your elbows to flare. You want to have, basically, you want to kind of corkscrew your bench presses. So I like to come down in here. I like to get some tuckage. I like to get that elbow in close, and then I like to flare them out. However, with you being 6'3" and 210, you're not as jacked and as tan as I am. So your lats and your triceps and stuff aren't all running into each other, I would imagine. So what's happening in your case, you're probably tucking the elbows because you read an old Dave Tate article and you're all fired up and you're trying to keep the elbows tucked in, just as he said, which is true. You do want to try to bring the elbows in a little bit. But at your height and your dimensions and your lack of lattage and your lack of triceps, you're going to have to let your elbow just drop and fall in line with where the barbell is. You want your elbow, your wrist, and the barbell to try to stay in alignment approximately. As you're pushing the weight back up, maybe that elbow flares to the other side for a split second as you're locking those weights out. Ways of maintaining this, exercises to make all this more betterist are a lot of lat exercises, heavy lat pull downs. I would advise pull-ups are always a great exercise. Lat pull downs to the gut are a good one. So you're going to lean way back and you're actually going to cheat. But as you pull the weight down, you're going to pull it down too. Down and in and squeeze, down and in and squeeze. That's going to teach you to flex your back. Another thing is you're going to have to hammer your back probably 2, maybe 3, and maybe as many as 4 times a week to help get rid of some of these issues, to help increase the size of your back and increase your leverages, because what I think is happening to you, I think you're over-tucking at the bottom. And you're over-tucking at the bottom because you don't have anything to run into. And when you over-tuck or you go one way too far, what we see typically is the opposite starts to happen. So you tuck too far and then you flare too far. Tuck too far, and next thing you know, you're like this, right? Same thing in the squat. You try to arch really hard in the squat and keep your head way up. What happens? You go like this, like you're throwing up in a toilet, right? So those are some of the things that can happen. My glasses are fogging up. So now you get to see those beautiful eyes. Look at that. Beautiful, huh? Terrifying is probably more like it. But anyway, whenever you try to go one way, your body wants to kind of go the other. And so that's important to understand. You're going to have to hammer those lats. You have to hammer them hard. People are, sometimes are confused on why the back is involved with the front, basically involved with the bench press. Well, just pull your chest up as hard as you possibly can with your hands kind of just down by your side a little bit. Pull your chest up as hard as you can and kind of squeeze. And what is that? What are those muscles that are doing that? Those are all the muscles in the back. You're not flexing your chest or anything to accomplish that. That's all the muscles back here, all the muscles you don't normally see in the mirror, unless you have a back fat mirror, which I have, which I highly recommend, and we'll get into some other future power project, but it will make a big difference for you. Let's see, what the hell else can we talk about here? You can hammer your triceps from some different angles. That would help. You can do some Tate presses, those types of deals. But really what's going to help you the most, hammer your back, hammer your lats. Also, you can do some of these guys, some pullovers. I just do them with like a lat. I just do them with a bar and a cable, just a lat pull down. I stand away from it and do them that way. But you want to teach your body, you want to teach your back to squeeze down and in to pull that chest up. And you want to try to increase the size of your lats as well. 5 sets of 6 to 12 reps on 2 or 3 different exercises. Let's start out with about 2 or 3 times a week would be a good starting place for that. Bent over rows are also great, obviously pull-ups, and that's kind of stuff as well. There's something else I'm missing here. Oh, the number one thing that helps keep you intact and to help keep you from getting too squirmy on your bench press is to do repetitions. Take, wherever your normal workouts are now, like let's forget about the 248-pound bench, and let's just say your best bench is 235. And because that's probably more of a weight that that you can hit on any given day. If somebody shot your dog in front of you, you can still go to the gym and bench 235, right? You with me? So now that we have that established, start to take about 75% of that and do sets of 2 or 3, probably sets of 3 or so. And that's going to be a good enough weight for you to work on your form and for you to work on your strength. If it feels a little light, add about 10 pounds, 5 pounds per side. If it still feels light, add another 10 pounds or so. I'm writing some stuff for a book called Jacked and Tan, and a lot of this stuff will be outlined in that book. But basically, pick weights that you can make, but that are still challenging, and do them over and over and over again. We're looking at about sets of 5 sets of about 3 reps. You can even do that after you've gone really heavy for singles, or it could be the first exercise of the day for you. But use something light, use something will be a piece of cake. And if it's way too light, then the next week add a little bit more weight to it, and so on and so forth.